Is semi-absentee ownership real, or is it just a marketing buzzword? A lot of people dream of keeping their job, buying a franchise on the side, and just letting it run by itself. But the truth is, semi-absentee ownership isn't defined anywhere in law, and what it means can vary wildly between you, the franchisor, and even other franchisees. So today we're going to break down the realities of semi-absentee ownership and what you need to know before you invest. The first thing to understand is that there is no official or legal definition of semi-absentee. To one person, it might mean supervising 5 hours a week. To another, it could mean working 20 hours a week. So to the franchise system, it might still require daily oversight. That's why step 1 is clarifying what you mean and making sure the franchisor that you're talking to is also using that same definition. The franchise disclosure document, or FDD, is one place that you can look for guidance. The key section here is item 15, which will spell out the obligations of the franchisee. This will tell you whether the owner must be involved day to day or if you can hire a manager to run the business. In some cases, though, unfortunately, it will state that a manager must hold equity if the owner isn't present. Beyond the item 15, the FDD doesn't really give us a whole lot of help in determining what is semi-absentee for a particular model. So this is where the definitions and expectations become extremely critical. Another big question is timing. Are you planning to run the business semi-absentee from day one, or are you hoping to start full-time and then eventually move into that semi-absentee role? That distinction does matter. Many people who try to start semi-absentee quickly realize that it's just not possible. They keep their job, invest in a franchise, and think that they're going to be able to manage both. But a few months in, they discover that the business needs far more time than they had imagined, which then they're forced to quit their job early just to save the franchise that they just invested hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars into. And that completely changes their financial picture. You also need to validate what the franchisor is telling you. Some brands pitch, "Oh, we're semi-absentee," but when you ask if any of the franchisees are actually running that way, the answer is no. This means that you would be the test case, and that could be a very expensive experiment. You want to know if there are real owners today in the system who are operating in a semi-absentee approach. Ask them how many hours they work and what their results look like. Financial expectations matter just as much. Item 7, which shows us the initial investment, is not always realistic and sometimes unfortunately understated. Owners may spend much more money than what is shown in the item 7, putting them in a bad financial spot just on day one. Item 19, which covers the financial performance, can also be overstated, and neither of these sections are always audited, especially if you're not in a registration state. So if you are planning to go semi-absentee, your payroll costs are going to be higher because you're going to be paying a full-time manager, which means you do have to adjust the numbers in the item 7 and the item 19 to account for that and reflect your plan, not just what's printed in the FDD. Risk management is another overlooked piece. You aren't just buying a business on the side, you're managing a manager, which requires its own skill set. Are you experienced in managing others? What happens if your manager quits? Do you have the flexibility to step in? If not, what is your plan B? Owners who succeed with this model usually have a flexible job or the financial resources to hire strong managers, and still, even then, they do have the bandwidth to step in temporarily if needed. Semi-absentee ownership can work, but usually only in certain systems. It works best in businesses with recurring revenue, clear processes, and a structure that allows the owner to operate more as a CEO than an operator. But even then, it requires realistic expectations, strong capital, and excellent management skills. Let's quickly compare the 3 ownership models. A full-time owner-operator is hands-on from day one, often working 50 hours a week or more, and usually reaches profitability faster because they're saving money on that labor. A semi-absentee owner is more of a CEO role, spending 10 to 20 hours a week on strategy, oversight, managing their manager, but profitability may take longer because of that extra payroll. An absentee owner is almost completely hands-off, rarely works more than a few hours a week, and relies entirely on managers and staff. That model carries the highest risk, and it's really only realistic in very mature systems with proven infrastructure. At the end of the day, semi-absentee ownership is more of a marketing term rather than a legal or consistent standard in the franchise industry. A few systems may support it, but it's far less common than people think. If you're considering it, do your homework, check it twice, read the item 15 carefully, Adjust your numbers in item 7 and item 19 to account for the extra staff. Validate with current franchisees who are actually semi-absentee. Define what semi-absentee means to you and make sure the franchisor shares that same definition. And most importantly, have a backup plan. Semi-absentee ownership is not a shortcut. It can work in the right systems with the right expectations, but most successful franchisees are still putting in full-time effort, especially at the beginning, which is why we don't typically recommend this way of starting a franchise. If you're serious about finding a franchise and wanting to explore whether semi-absentee ownership is realistic, that's exactly what we help people do. Reach out to us at Franchise Inspectors. We'll help you separate the marketing from the reality so you can make a smart investment. Feel free to go to our website at franinspect.com or click the link above. And a reminder that we do not charge anything for our services, so it really doesn't hurt you to reach out. Thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe if you enjoy this content.